Good Energy, The Surprising Connection Between Metabolism and Limitless Health, by Casey Means, MD, with Calley Means. Introduction. Everything is connected. My mother entered this world weighing a hefty 11 pounds, 9 ounces, a celebratory giant amongst newborns. This auspicious beginning, however, foreshadowed a lifelong struggle with weight, a battle fought against a backdrop of conventional medical advice that normalized her struggles, attributing them to the natural consequences of childbirth and aging. Her journey, punctuated by progressively intensifying diagnoses, elevated blood pressure in her 40s, high cholesterol in her 50s, and prediabetes in her 60s, mirrored the trajectory of millions of Americans, lulled into a false sense of security by the ubiquitous nature of these conditions. Each diagnosis brought a new prescription, a new management strategy, but never an inquiry into the interconnectedness of these symptoms, never a search for the root cause. Her story culminated abruptly in 2021, at the age of 71, with a stage 4 pancreatic cancer diagnosis and a swift, tragic demise just 13 days later. My mother's experience, while deeply personal, reflects a pervasive and alarming trend within our modern society, a silent epidemic of what I call bad energy, or metabolic dysfunction. It's a story of fragmented healthcare, a system designed to treat isolated symptoms rather than address the underlying cellular dysregulation that fuels a cascade of chronic illnesses. This fragmentation, coupled with societal and lifestyle changes, has created a perfect storm, driving a dramatic increase in preventable chronic diseases, not only in adults but also alarmingly in children and adolescents. Teenage fatty liver disease, prediabetes, and obesity rates are soaring, painting a bleak picture of the future health of our population. The statistics are stark. 6 in 10 adults grapple with chronic illness, 74% are overweight or obese, and rates of cancer, heart disease, and autoimmune conditions are steadily climbing while life expectancy in the United States declines. This book argues that the escalating prevalence of these conditions, both physical and mental, isn't an inevitable consequence of being human. It challenges the narrative that these are separate, unrelated ailments, manageable with a lifetime cocktail of pharmaceuticals. Instead, it proposes a radical yet scientifically sound perspective. These conditions are interconnected manifestations of a single underlying physiological dysfunction, the inability of our cells to efficiently produce and utilize energy. A state of bad energy, this dysfunction, driven by a mismatch between our evolved metabolic processes and the dramatically altered environment in which we now live, impacts every aspect of our being, from our physical health to our mental well-being, and ultimately, our longevity. The good news is that this isn't a fixed destiny. The power to prevent and reverse these conditions, to reclaim our health and vitality, resides within each of us. This book offers a path towards good energy, a state of optimal metabolic health where our cells function harmoniously, fueling our bodies and minds with the energy we need to thrive. It's a journey of understanding the intricate workings of our cellular machinery, recognizing the environmental and lifestyle factors that disrupt it, and implementing practical strategies to restore and maintain its delicate balance. It's about recognizing the interconnectedness of our bodies and minds, acknowledging the profound influence of our environment, and embracing a holistic approach to health and well-being. This is the promise of good energy, a future where we live vibrant, energetic lives, free from the chronic diseases that plague our modern world. Good energy, the foundation of vibrant health. Good energy, synonymous with metabolic health, is the cornerstone of vitality and longevity. It's the seamless, silent symphony of cellular processes that transform the food we consume into the energy that powers every cell in our bodies. When this system operates optimally, we experience a state of effortless well-being, our bodies and minds functioning with clarity and resilience. We move with ease, think with sharpness, and experience a deep sense of vitality. Good energy is the bedrock upon which we build a life of robust health, sustained energy, and balanced well-being. This state of metabolic harmony isn't merely the absence of disease. It's the presence of vibrant health. It's a state of optimal cellular function, where each cell hums with efficient energy production, fueling the complex processes that keep us alive and thriving. It's the foundation for balanced weight, clear skin, stable moods, and a robust immune system. For those seeking to conceive, it unlocks the natural state of fertility that's our birthright. As we age, it mitigates the fear of inevitable decline, offering the promise of continued vitality and well-being into our later years. Conversely, when our metabolic health falters, when we slip into a state of bad energy, the consequences ripple throughout our entire being. Our cells, starved of the energy they need to perform their essential functions, begin to malfunction. This cellular dysfunction cascades upwards, impacting tissues, organs, and ultimately, our entire system. The symptoms of this metabolic breakdown manifest in a myriad of ways, from fatigue and brain fog to chronic pain and infertility, and ultimately, to the chronic diseases that plague our modern world. The root of this metabolic crisis lies in a fundamental mismatch. Our metabolic processes, honed over millennia of evolution, are exquisitely adapted to a specific environment. However, the rapid and dramatic changes in our modern lifestyles, particularly in our diets, movement patterns, sleep habits, stress levels, and exposure to synthetic chemicals, have created a jarring dissonance. Our cells are now bombarded with an onslaught of unfamiliar inputs, a cacophony of signals that disrupt their delicate balance and impair their ability to generate energy efficiently. This evolutionary mismatch is the driving force behind the epidemic of bad energy, fueling the chronic inflammation and oxidative stress that underpin the majority of modern diseases. The signs of this metabolic dysfunction often begin subtly: an expanding waistline, elevated cholesterol levels, rising fasting glucose, or creeping blood pressure. These seemingly innocuous markers, often dismissed as the inevitable consequences of aging or lifestyle, are actually early warning signs of a deeper cellular crisis. Ignoring these signals allows the dysfunction to fester, setting the stage for more serious health problems down the line. My mother's journey exemplifies this insidious progression. While outwardly appearing healthy and vibrant, the seeds of metabolic dysfunction were quietly sown within her cells, eventually culminating in a devastating diagnosis. Her story underscores the critical importance of recognizing and addressing the early signs of bad energy, of understanding that the seemingly minor health complaints we experience today can be harbingers of more serious illnesses tomorrow. Waking up. A surgeon's journey to metabolic health. My journey began within the hallowed halls of conventional medicine. From a young age, I was captivated by the intricacies of the human body and dedicated myself to mastering its secrets. My path was paved with accolades: a research internship at the National Institutes of Health at 16, presidency of my Stanford class at 18, top honors for my undergraduate thesis, distinction in medical school, and prestigious surgical residency at Oregon Health Science University. I was, by all accounts, a rising star in the medical establishment, however. Amidst this seemingly perfect trajectory, a nagging unease began to surface. It started with patients like Sophia, a woman plagued by recurrent sinus infections. I surgically addressed her immediate symptoms, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was merely treating the downstream consequences of a deeper, systemic issue. Sophia's other health problems, prediabetes, obesity, back pain, and depression, echoed the conditions I saw in countless other patients. A troubling question began to haunt me: were these seemingly disparate ailments truly unrelated, or were they interconnected manifestations of a common underlying cause? This question became a turning point in my career. I realized that despite the vast resources and technological advancements of modern medicine, we were failing to address the root cause of the chronic diseases that were increasingly plaguing our patients. We were expertly trained to identify and treat specific symptoms, but we lacked the framework to understand the interconnectedness of the human body and the underlying dysfunctions that fueled these diverse manifestations. The system, incentivized to manage disease rather than cure it, perpetuated a cycle of interventions that addressed the branches of the problem while neglecting the root. The encounter with Sophia was a catalyst. It sparked a profound realization that I couldn't continue operating on patients without first understanding the underlying reasons for their illnesses. This realization led me to abandon my carefully constructed career path and embark on a quest to unravel the true nature of disease. I left my surgical residency, a decision that defied conventional wisdom and jeopardized years of investment in my medical education. However, the urgency of my quest overshadowed all other considerations. I was driven by a conviction that there had to be a better way, a way to help patients truly heal rather than simply manage their symptoms. My search led me to the burgeoning field of metabolic health. A field that offered a unifying perspective on the seemingly disparate chronic diseases that plague our modern world. I immersed myself in the study of nutritional biochemistry, cell biology, systems biology, and functional medicine, seeking to understand the intricate workings of our cellular machinery and the environmental factors that disrupt its delicate balance. This new perspective transformed my understanding of health and disease. I began to see the human body not as a collection of isolated parts but as an interconnected system, a complex web of interactions constantly responding to its environment. I learned that the root of most chronic diseases lies in the dysfunction of our cells, specifically in their ability to efficiently produce and utilize energy. This realization opened up a new world of possibilities, a world where healing could be achieved by addressing the underlying metabolic dysfunction rather than simply managing its downstream symptoms. My subsequent work with patients confirmed the power of this approach. By focusing on restoring cellular health, by providing the cells with the nutrients they need and removing the environmental insults that impair their function, I witnessed remarkable transformations. Patients experienced relief from chronic pain, improved sleep, enhanced cognitive function, and even reversal of chronic diseases. This experience solidified my conviction that metabolic health is the key to unlocking our full potential for health and vitality. This journey also exposed me to the limitations of our current healthcare system, a system that prioritizes specialization and symptom management over holistic understanding and root cause resolution. It revealed the powerful influence of financial incentives that perpetuate a cycle of disease management rather than cure. It became clear that a paradigm shift was needed, a shift towards a more holistic, patient-centered approach that addresses the underlying metabolic dysfunction that fuels the majority of chronic diseases. This book is the culmination of my journey, a synthesis of my conventional medical training and my exploration of the science of metabolic health. It's a call to action, an invitation to reclaim our health and vitality by understanding and addressing the root cause of disease. It's a message of hope, a reminder that we have the power to transform our health and create a future free from the chronic diseases that plague our modern world. The journey begins with asking a simple question: what would it feel like to have good energy? Part 1. The truth about energy. Chapter 1. Siloed health versus energy-centric health. Modern medicine, with its emphasis on specialization, has inadvertently created a fragmented view of the human body. From the very beginning of medical education, aspiring physicians are channeled into increasingly narrow domains of expertise, focusing on specific organs or systems while losing sight of the interconnectedness of the whole. This reductionist approach, while valuable in certain contexts, has limitations when it comes to understanding and treating the complex web of interactions that contribute to chronic disease. My own journey through medical training epitomizes this fragmented perspective. I began with a broad interest in human biology, but as I progressed through medical school and residency, my focus narrowed progressively. I chose to specialize in otolaryngology, the study of the ear, nose, and throat, and within that specialty, I further specialized in otology, focusing on the intricate mechanisms of hearing and balance. This hyperspecialization, while honing my surgical skills, also created blinders, limiting my ability to see the bigger picture, the interconnectedness of the human body and the underlying factors that contribute to chronic disease. This fragmented approach became starkly apparent in my interactions with patients like Sarah, a young woman suffering from a debilitating constellation of symptoms: chronic migraine, inflammatory arthritis, depression, and hypertension. Each of these conditions fell under the purview of a different specialist, each prescribing medications and interventions targeted at the specific symptom without considering the possibility of a common underlying cause. Sarah's case highlighted the limitations of a siloed approach to healthcare, a system that treats the branches of the problem while neglecting the root. Peeling back the layers. What causes disease? Sarah's case prompted me to question the assumption that her various ailments were unrelated. A closer look at her medical records revealed a common thread: chronic inflammation. This realization led me down a path of inquiry, exploring the role of inflammation in a wide range of chronic diseases. Inflammation, in its acute form, is a vital part of the body's defense system. It's the rapid and coordinated response to injury or infection, a cascade of events designed to contain damage, eliminate pathogens, and initiate healing. The classic signs of inflammation: swelling, heat, redness, and pain, are outward manifestations of this complex process. However, when inflammation becomes chronic, when it persists beyond its initial purpose, it can become a destructive force, contributing to a wide range of chronic diseases. My experience as an ENT surgeon provided ample evidence of the pervasive nature of inflammation. The vast majority of conditions I treated, sinusitis, tonsillitis, pharyngitis, laryngitis, and so on, were characterized by inflammation. I was, in essence, an inflammation physician, yet my training had never addressed the underlying causes of this ubiquitous phenomenon. We were adept at suppressing inflammation with medications and surgical interventions. But we lacked the framework to understand why it kept recurring. Sarah's case forced me to confront this gap in my knowledge. Why was her immune system in a perpetual state of activation? What was the underlying trigger that kept her body in a state of chronic inflammation? These questions led me to explore the deeper connections between inflammation and the intricate workings of our cells. The cellular underpinnings of chronic disease, metabolism, mitochondria, and malfunction. The quest to understand the root cause of chronic inflammation led me to the world of cellular biology, specifically to the realm of mitochondria, the powerhouses of our cells. These tiny organelles are responsible for converting the food we eat into the cellular energy that fuels all of our bodily functions. When mitochondrial function is compromised, when our cells are starved of energy, a cascade of events unfolds that can lead to chronic inflammation and ultimately, to chronic disease. Mitochondria are remarkable structures, intricate power plants within each cell. They perform the crucial task of cellular respiration, a process that converts the energy stored in food molecules into ATP, the universal energy currency of life. This process involves a complex series of biochemical reactions, including the Krebs cycle and the electron transport chain, which take place within the inner membrane of the mitochondria. These reactions require a constant supply of oxygen and nutrients, and they generate free radicals as byproducts. When mitochondrial function is optimal, this process runs smoothly, providing the cell with the energy it needs to perform its myriad functions. However, when mitochondrial function is compromised, when these tiny power plants are unable to keep up with the cell's energy demands, a cascade of events unfolds that can lead to chronic inflammation and ultimately, to chronic disease. Several factors can contribute to mitochondrial dysfunction, including chronic overnutrition, consuming more calories than our bodies need, particularly in the form of processed foods high in sugar and unhealthy fats, overwhelms our mitochondria and leads to oxidative stress, a state of cellular imbalance that can damage mitochondrial DNA and impair their function. This overconsumption is exacerbated by the ubiquitous availability of highly palatable, engineered foods designed to bypass our natural satiety mechanisms. Nutrient deficiencies. Mitochondria rely on a complex array of micronutrients, including vitamins and minerals, to function optimally. Modern agricultural practices and dietary choices often lead to deficiencies in these crucial nutrients, further compromising mitochondrial function. Soil depletion, monoculture farming, and the consumption of processed foods devoid of essential nutrients contribute to this widespread problem. Microbiome imbalances. Dysbiosis. Our gut microbiome, a complex community of microorganisms residing in our digestive tract, plays a crucial role in our metabolic health. A healthy microbiome produces beneficial metabolites that support mitochondrial function, while an imbalanced microbiome, often caused by poor diet, antibiotic use, and chronic stress, can contribute to mitochondrial dysfunction and chronic inflammation. Sedentary lifestyle. Physical activity is a potent stimulus for mitochondrial biogenesis, the process of creating new mitochondria. A sedentary lifestyle, on the other hand, leads to a decline in mitochondrial number and function, contributing to metabolic dysfunction. Chronic stress. The physiological response to chronic stress involves the release of hormones like cortisol, which can negatively impact mitochondrial function and contribute to oxidative stress. The constant bombardment of stress hormones disrupts the delicate balance within our cells, further exacerbating metabolic dysfunction. Medications and drugs. Many commonly prescribed medications, including antibiotics, statins, and beta blockers, can have adverse effects on mitochondrial function. Similarly, recreational drugs and excessive alcohol consumption can damage mitochondria and contribute to metabolic dysfunction. Sleep deprivation. Adequate sleep is essential for mitochondrial repair and regeneration. Chronic sleep deprivation disrupts this process, leading to impaired mitochondrial function and increased oxidative stress. Environmental toxins and pollutants. Exposure to environmental toxins, such as pesticides, heavy metals, and industrial chemicals, can directly damage mitochondria and impair their function. These toxins, ubiquitous in our modern environment, pose a constant threat to our metabolic health. Artificial light and circadian disruption. Our circadian rhythms, the internal clocks that regulate our sleep-wake cycles and other bodily functions, are intimately linked to mitochondrial function. Exposure to artificial light at night disrupts these rhythms, contributing to metabolic dysfunction. Thermoneutrality. Our bodies have evolved to thrive in a range of temperatures. Exposure to both cold and heat can stimulate mitochondrial activity and enhance their function. Modern lifestyles, characterized by climate-controlled environments, deprive us of these natural stimuli, potentially contributing to metabolic decline. The blood sugar-insulin connection. When mitochondria are unable to efficiently process glucose, the primary fuel source for our cells, a cascade of events unfolds that can lead to insulin resistance and ultimately, to type 2 diabetes. Insulin, a hormone produced by the pancreas, regulates blood sugar levels by signaling cells to take up glucose from the bloodstream. When cells become resistant to insulin signal, glucose accumulates in the bloodstream, leading to a chronic state of hyperglycemia, or high blood sugar. This insulin resistance is often a consequence of mitochondrial dysfunction. When mitochondria are unable to effectively process glucose, the excess glucose within the cell can disrupt insulin signaling pathways, leading to reduced glucose uptake. This creates a vicious cycle, as the elevated blood sugar levels further contribute to mitochondrial damage and oxidative stress. The trifecta of dysfunction. Mitochondrial dysfunction, chronic inflammation, and oxidative stress form a trifecta of dysfunction that underlies the majority of chronic diseases plaguing our modern world. These three processes are intricately interconnected, each exacerbating the other, creating a downward spiral of metabolic decline. How to measure good energy? Fortunately, we have simple and readily available tools to assess our metabolic health. 5 key markers, routinely measured during annual checkups, provide a snapshot of our metabolic status. 1. Fasting glucose. This measures blood sugar levels after an overnight fast, providing an indication of how effectively our bodies regulate glucose metabolism. 2. Triglycerides. These are a type of fat found in the blood. Elevated triglyceride levels are often associated with insulin resistance and increased risk of cardiovascular disease. 3. HDL cholesterol. This is often referred to as good cholesterol, as it helps remove cholesterol from the arteries. Low HDL levels are a risk factor for cardiovascular disease. 4. Blood pressure. High blood pressure is a major risk factor for heart disease, stroke, and kidney disease. 5. Waist circumference. Excess abdominal fat is a key indicator of metabolic dysfunction and increased risk of chronic disease. These 5 markers, when combined, provide a comprehensive assessment of our metabolic health. When these markers are within optimal ranges, it suggests that our cells are functioning efficiently, producing and utilizing energy effectively. Conversely, when these markers deviate from the healthy range, it signals the presence of metabolic dysfunction, increasing the risk of developing chronic diseases. The metabolic spectrum of disease. The concept of a metabolic spectrum of disease recognizes that many seemingly disparate chronic conditions, such as heart disease, cancer, Alzheimer's disease, and type 2 diabetes, share a common underlying cause: metabolic dysfunction. This understanding provides a unifying framework for preventing and treating these conditions, shifting the focus from managing individual symptoms to addressing the root cause. The power of good energy. The good news is that metabolic dysfunction is reversible. By addressing the underlying causes, through dietary changes, lifestyle modifications, and targeted interventions, we can restore mitochondrial function, reduce inflammation, and improve our overall metabolic health. This shift towards good energy not only reduces the risk of chronic disease but also enhances our overall well-being, increasing energy levels, improving cognitive function, and promoting a sense of vitality and resilience. This book offers a practical roadmap for achieving and maintaining good energy, providing actionable strategies for optimizing our metabolic health and preventing the chronic diseases that plague our modern world. It's a message of empowerment, a reminder that we have the power to take control of our health and create a future filled with vitality and well-being.